So without further ado, I'm just going to introduce myself and then I'm going to hand over to our speakers for this evening. So welcome on behalf of our two co-hosts, Bristol Link with Nicaragua and the Nicaragua Solidarity Campaign. This is part of a lot of other things that we'll get into around Fairtrade Fortnight. I'll do a very brief introduction to myself and the context of this evening, and then I'll hand over to our two amazing speakers. So my name is Roy Kareem, and I am a Black and Green ambassador for Bristol. And what that means is that I represent and go and engage with Black and Brown communities around the city of Bristol in the UK, in the southwest of the UK, I should say. It's a program that came out of Bristol being the European Green Capital in 2015, and there being a recognition that there was a lack of diversity amongst many of the conversations that were happening around environmental issues and climate crisis. And I was very lucky to be appointed last year along with two other amazing ambassadors, Asia and Olivia. And yeah, we're in position for a year and we're having conversations. I will put my details in the chat. Please do look us up and get in contact. So about why we're here this evening. We'll get into sort of, the context of fair trade and how it fits into the climate agenda, into sustainable agricultural practices, a little bit of practicalities around the presentations. There's approximately going to be about half an hour presentations, followed by question and answers. People can post their questions in English or in Spanish. As you may have already noticed, or you may already know about, there's going to be simultaneous interpretation during tonight's event. If you need interpretation, if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you should see a button that says interpretation next to the Q&A button, sort of on the far right middle. And you can choose which language you like. Thank you to our interpreters, Judy Lamnin and Dan and Tamara Hopewell. They're going to be doing an excellent job this evening, I have no doubt. We'll also be recording both English and Spanish versions of this webinar, and a link will be sent to everybody with an English translation of Fatima's presentation, along with a reminder of the various action points. So why are we here? Well, this is one of dozens of events that's taking place across the UK and Ireland to celebrate Fairtrade Fortnight, which is running until the 7th of March. And it's part of a wider Fairtrade festival that's happening. And I think the real context for this event and this year in particular is leading up to COP26, which is happening in the UK in Glasgow in November of this year, postponed from last year due to COVID and coronavirus. And this time is crucial. It's a crucial time to be able to put maximum pressure on all the countries, including the UK, who have been contributing to carbon emissions over the last 200 years. And it is countries like Nicaragua and farmers such as those who we'll be speaking with tonight from the Co-operative, and I'm sorry if I'm about to do very disservice to the name, SOPPEXCCA, who bear the brunt of this climate crisis for which they are the least responsible. In addition to confronting this crisis, the farmers that we'll be speaking to and that are represented this evening also trapped or part of extremely unfair trading practices and unfair trading systems. Fair trade contributes to helping farmers by helping them fight back through a system that aims to create a sustainable future for both people and planet. So what we're talking about is trade justice, and without trade justice, there cannot be social justice, and without social justice, there can be no climate justice. And that's why we're all here this evening. So this evening, we're going to be hearing from two speakers, both from the Co-operative Union SOPPEXCCA, which is in northern Nicaragua, representing 650 small-scale farmers producing fair trade organic coffee for export and fruit and vegetables for their own consumption, as well as to sell locally. So our two speakers are Fatima Ismael and Erika Lanzas. Fatima Ismael is the general manager of the cooperative. She'll be doing an overview as well as speaking about social, economic, environmental challenges that specifically Nicaragua's are facing, particularly women, as a result of the climate crisis, what they're doing right now to help to adapt to mitigate to those circumstances, and why trade justice is inseparable from social and climate justice. Then Erika will be speaking. Erika Lanzas is a small-scale farmer, part of the same cooperative, and she'll be giving her personal experience and perspective on those same issues of trade, justice, and the interactions between the socio and economic impacts of the climate crisis. So, as I say, please do put your questions and comments in the chat, put them in English or put them in Spanish. We'll have people looking at them, moderating it, and being able to then feed those questions into the Q&A. And again, for any interpretation, please do click that interpretation box at the bottom of your Zoom screen and select the language that you would like. So without further ado, may I please introduce Fatima Ismael. Fatima, over to you.
Muy buenos días a todos y
Hi.
todas.
Good day, everybody. Greetings to
I'm really
everybody.
glad to be able to be here for this opportunity, to be able to bring
Here we are,
consumers and the industry,
giving greetings to all of our
the human
consumers.
chain that's working.
And we're putting attention on the problems that we're facing. Good evening, my name's Erika Lanzas. I'm a mother, I'm a single mother, and I produce
I'm a
coffee
single mother and
associated with SOPPEXCCA.
Producer of coffee with SOPPEXCCCA.
Okay, I'm waiting for the presentation to come up. We're located in Nicaragua, a poor country in Central America. And given our geographical location, and we have a lot of impacts that we suffer from climate change. Nicaragua has a population of 6.3 million, and just over 50% are women and just under 50% men. So by 1.5%, we're a majority of women in our country. And we've had lots of benefits of the changes from the revolution. And women are more visible within our society and more active in fields such as economic activity. But we're a poor country. And we're poor because of our history, which has been a history of extraction of raw materials, starting with the cotton harvests in the 1950s and 60s. And our woods and forests have been cut and exported. And with Somoza's dictatorship, our wood traveled around the world and was exported. And our countryside, the rural zones where SOPPEXCCCA is based, have the highest levels of poverty. And 64.5% of our population live in the countryside and living in poverty. And therefore, this is particularly important because we generate work, we generate income for families. And through our work, our country can also obtain hard currency. As the coffee sector, we're 64,000 producers of coffee. with largely small and medium producers.
Por tanto, la producción de este país descansa mayormente en pequeños productores.
So the majority of production in our country is based in small and medium-sized producers, and this creates 300,000 direct and indirect jobs, and we're therefore a very important part of the economy of our country. And coffee produces 14% of the jobs at national level in Nicaragua. SOPPECCCA is an organization made up of 16 cooperatives, and our mission is to become an arm of the community development and economic development of our communities. So SOPPECCCA has begun from the beginning to implement a focus on sustainable economic development and green development. So therefore, the protection of the ecology is very important for us. And we develop education programs. And women have generally not had the opportunity to participate fully. And therefore, we develop programs to train women within our communities and we support the development of primary and secondary education. These last years have been a time of great satisfaction for us. About 7 years ago, we now have full access to primary education within our rural communities, and secondary schools have been opened in our rural communities. And this is very, very important for our country. SOPPECCCA has also supported through credit programs for our communities. So this is a credit program that is viable for our communities, because the private banking takes money out of families through debt repayment. Yeah. We work through the life course of the coffee production, and we export directly to those who import coffee from us. And we work incredibly intensely to maintain high quality of our coffee. So we have a really good relationship with Fairtrade. And so we've been learning how to do this. And this has been incredibly important for our work. So we've been really supported through the buying of our products by Fairtrade, and therefore the benefits and the excess that we get through this has allowed us to help us develop our programs of education. It's very, very important, también, the support that we've had through the Nicaragua Solidarity Campaign and the campaign in Bristol. This has given us lots of strength and animated us to continue. And this sort of relationship has been really, really important for us. our programs that help to make people aware of things has been really, really important in terms of our work. As our ambassador says, we can't have sustainable development without equality of gender. So therefore, women need to be recognized in terms of everything that they give to society and create within society. We struggle as a country, as an organization, and work against the things that are against us. We have a history of climate change and climatic problems that has a lot to do with drought and floods and hurricanes that cross our country. And this has a strong impact on us. And this then created problems with Roya, which is a plague that we have on the coffee. And we lost 40% of our coffee. And then we had to get up and bring ourselves up again and to renew our coffee plantations and to continue developing our sustainable coffee. And also the effects of the climate cycles of the Niña and the Niño has created both drought and then heavy rains and flooding. And this affects the cultivations and the coffee, and therefore it affects us economically. And the last two hurricanes, Eta and Iota, have also crossed our country last year. And this also had an effect on us as well. So therefore, we're building ourselves up again. And this really caused huge problems in felling lots of trees through the hurricanes. And therefore, we're having to reforest our coffee plantations. So we've got large forest areas that need to be replanted now. The main threats that we have, the main climate threats that we have, is the general rising of temperature. So therefore, we're monitoring this. So we therefore have to work in lots of different fronts, because we have to maintain the basic climate conditions. So our cooperatives are monitoring the climate to be able to alert us earlier in what the impact is of the climate change, such as pests and hurricanes, because climate change is going to have an effect on our cultivations, on our crops. And the impact is, of course, at a socio-economic level as well. And then it affects our society. For example, with people migrating from Central America, looking for other alternatives for their lives, going to the United States or going to Spain. And there, of course, they will suffer from other exploitation as well. And those who migrate and then those who migrate really don't have good economic chances. And this creates separation of families and creates suffering for our families, and has a really poor effects socially on our communities. So therefore, we're working really intensely to avoid this. and therefore we're trying to create options for our communities.
Otro efecto,
Another effect
impactante es, digamos, el término que tiene que ver con la inseguridad alimentaria que nos han provocado estos efectos del cambio
is the
climático.
food insecurity that climate change creates for our communities,
A nivel general de nuestra familia, un 30%
which means that 30% of our community
pérdida con nuestros principales productos básicos como el frijol, el
L-
maíz.
our communities lose up to 30% of their basic production of basic foods, such as beans and rice and so on. And therefore this has an effect on the community, and it reduces the opportunities for employment too. So climate change affects this as well. And then this has an effect on our communities, and this then affects their health and their ability to participate in education. So therefore we're reforesting our communities, our forests, and therefore we're also diversifying our production. So therefore, from this area, we're working to, so we're celebrating as well the International Women's Day, it's 8th of March. And so greetings to all women around the world. So we're completely committed to equality of gender. And this is what we're struggling for. And we're in solidarity with all of the women. So we've come through a struggle of marginalization and violence. So now we have to deconstruct this social scheme, and so therefore we have to take up the flags of struggle, and therefore fair trade helps us to achieve these goals of creating equality of gender. And therefore, if we didn't have access to this fair trade market, we wouldn't be able to continue to do this struggle and to survive economically. So thank you to the fair trade and the solidarity towards us. And through this, SOPPECCCA can develop its approach to the equality of gender and develop these pilot programs that support this through our cooperative movement in Nicaragua. And through our policies of gender equality, we're able to develop our organization and to devote resources towards this. And women are in our organization, are in leadership positions, and therefore women are able to help to make the decisions within our organization. So women are presidents and vice presidents within our cooperatives. And within these, they take decisions, and within the general assemblies. And we've been able to effectively achieve so the women's voice is heard within our organization and our communities. So therefore, we've been able to putting women in a situation of changing our lives and changing our work. And the women who are organized within the area of coffee have been recognized internationally. And we've produced a coffee called Las Hermanas. So therefore, our brand has been promoted within the coffee industry. And so SOPPECCCA has created an area of work around promoting women's economic independence. And we've devoted more than $84,000 in the buying of small areas of land for women to help them. And this has created 128 hectares of land. And therefore, the provision of credit to these women is really, really important in order to support these women in developing their self-esteem and their confidence to cultivate this land. And this supports the empowerment of women and to support our young people within our communities. So working with the children and young people within the families is very important for SOPPECCCA to support the changes that are needed to be made. We have been supporting this process of supporting women and supporting their empowerment. We wanted to take this opportunity to give a message to the activists of Fairtrade to don't give up the fight. We need you. We are reclaiming climate justice here, and we mustn't stop. This world needs us to continue to create a space that is possible, that is inhabitable, with equality for human beings. So this helps us to create well-being for our families. So we can't have climate justice without fair trade. So we need to take up this struggle and grab the flag of this struggle and take it forwards, all of us. And we need to, all of us, force ourselves to struggle for this climate justice. In order to support really true human development. So this is a cause against discrimination of all types. And thousands of thanks towards this. And you completely merit our huge respect. And thank you all. And I'm going to leave you with my heroine, Erika, who's one of the producers of coffee.
I'm associated since 2012 with SOPPECCCA. Erika Lanzas Rodas is my name. I'm a single mother of 4 children and a producer of coffee associated with SOPPECCCA. I've been associated since 2012. I began with just 1.5 hectares of coffee, and now I've got 3. This has been a huge benefit that I have managed to gain, and which has been massively significant for me. And the most important thing has been the improvements that I'm being able to make to my life. At the beginning, I only had a small house, and now I've been able to build a bathroom and different hygienic services in my house. I've managed to fix my roof. I've been able to create my own coffee dryer, which is of a higher quality, which I'm able to do at home, and therefore create a higher quality of coffee. I've also been learning with every step that I can not just live off coffee, but also I've been working with different groups, and I've got different vegetables now, and so now I've been able to grow my own, and now I've joined the Café Hermanas, the Coffee Sisters. We've been able to create coffee of a higher level of quality. The group of Coffee Sisters has been very important to me. We've been able to grow economically, emotionally together with the production of coffee and as producers of coffee. Today, I'm a woman who's able to create, who's able to lead in my own society, and who knows about different themes. I'm vice president of my cooperative, and I'm also part of the Commission of the Equality of Gender. I've also learned a lot within this, not just about things to do with the environment and growing, but also around themes of gender equality. And all of this has been helped by being given monetary help from SOPPEXCCA and other funds in order to finish my secondary schooling, also continue learning as a producer. It's been difficult, a process of learning to learn how to combat and work around climate change. This has meant growing diverse vegetables and different produce in our different areas, and also learning what's necessary of these things. So beginning by small patches of vegetables for each of us, and also learning what we need in order to be sustainable. We now have a small market where where we have grown what we produce, and we now have a small market where we're able to sell this and therefore be more economically viable. For me, the Coffee Sisters have been a family, because during the times of pandemic, we've been able to support each other, and we've been able to help each other, to support each other, to understand what's going on around us, to understand how to combat not only things like climate change, but also things like the pandemic. And for me, SOPPEXCCA and being associated with SOPPEXCCA makes me feel protected, makes me feel as though I'm part of a family, because we're able to support each other through the cooperatives. This has given me a great feeling of support. Children also benefit from being part of this. Through the cooperative, they're able to be given funds to help them go to school, and also they're able to be given better food and learn from this. They also support us in health. They're always working for our health, to better our health, particularly the health of women. When we find ourselves in different problems, particularly at home. Difficulties that can be things such as the loss of family. They've always been there by our side with the different producers, helping us when we're making anything, be it money or be it support, all in all helping us and supporting us to better our production. And helping us learn. It's been a process of learning to work, and also learning to recognize that we as women can come out forwards, can be leaders. And we're able to, within all of this, take away our negative ideas that it's only men that work. And now I've come to learn that when I have an idea, I'm able to take forward that idea, and I'm able, have the capacity to fulfill it. I realized that I can work, that I don't have to depend on others, and I know how to come out in front with my family.
Erika, si vos contás con 3 hectáreas de café, más o menos, la manzana y medio. 3 meses.
Yo inicié con 1.5 manzanas y ahora cuento con 3 manzanas de café. Café orgánico.
I started with just 1.5 manzanas, apples of coffee, and now I'm up to 3 and I create organic coffee. And now I've been able to build a fast dryer, which means I'm able to, during times of rain, produce coffee still without being forced to stop my production due to the weather. And this has been gained through the support that I've had from SOPPEXCCA and Fairtrade, which has helped me better the quality of the coffee that I'm able to produce.
Sí, también en los tiempos del inicio de la pandemia, que nos han apoyado.
And this support was really felt at the beginning of the pandemic because we needed a lot of support in different ways. Also, SOPPEXCCA and other initiatives such as this help us gain knowledge. We've had presentations, seminars, and in the end of the day, it helps us learn to live alongside problems such as COVID rather than fighting against it. Thank you to everybody that's here.
Gracias, Fatima and Erika. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much for the presentations. We've got lots of questions, and so I'm just going to launch right into them if that's okay. So, and to all the people who are watching us right now, please put questions in the chat box, or some of you may have a Q&A function down at the bottom of your Zoom screen, so put them in there, keep them coming in. So the first question I wanted to come to, which somebody asked, which was, is the cooperative interested in diversifying from coffee into other crops that might help to deal with climate change or could help to bring in other sources of income?
Ok. Sí, nosotros, nuestro programa de diversificación siempre lo vamos definiendo de manera participativa con nuestros socios. El cacao para nosotros está representando un desafío, estamos en un programa piloto todavía de siembra de cacao porque consideramos que cacao es un cultivo muy beneficioso y muy compatible con ese sostenimiento ambiental, porque es un cultivo que se cultiva bajo sombra, ¿verdad? Convive perfectamente con árboles forestales y también ese recurso de cacao viene a ingresar, ¿verdad?, a la familia y tiene la bondad que también se cosecha 3 veces al año. Entonces, nuestros socios, nuestra gente, no solamente como el café que se cultiva y hay ingreso una sola vez por año, mientras que el cacao va a estar durante 3 momentos en los 12 meses del año, coberturando esas necesidades de flujo de caja a las familias para su sobrevivencia. En ese proceso, nosotros también como organización. Sí, perfecto.
Oh,
Gracias. Otra pregunta. And I just wanted to let the
Bueno,
people
perfecto.
behind the scenes
Podemos
know
repetir, Julie, también,
the
¿no?
English translation is not coming through for me at the moment.
I'm so sorry. I think I was on mute.
Ah, no problem. Thank you.
So shall I summarize quickly?
Yeah, perfect. If you wouldn't mind.
Okay, so they have been working in a participatory manner with their communities to grow cacao, cocoa, which has some advantages in the sense that there are 3 harvests per year, which means that at 3 moments in the year, there is income coming into the families from the sale of cocoa, which has an advantage against coffee, which only has 1, of course, harvest point in the year. So this helps families to manage their family income and gives them increased numbers of points of new income coming into the family, which helps them to manage. Okay. Okay, let's go again. Yes.
Great.
¿Se logró traducir la parte que expliqué de la siembra de cacao? Sí. Ok, empezamos, ¿verdad? Bueno, nuestro programa de diversificación es
Our program of diversifying our crops is always done in negotiation and in a participatory manner with our communities. We've established cacao, and we're in the 5th year because producing cacao takes time. It's a permanent crop, so cacao also is a very good crop to grow because it's really good with all of the things that we're doing in terms of preserving our ecology, because it's compatible with growing trees, forestry trees and shade trees. And the cacao produces 3 crops a year, which helps to create income for the families 3 times a year. We're also producing honey with our communities, and we're growing. We've got beehives, and this is also a strategy because, of course, we know that bees are under threat across the world, and therefore growing. And we're also making chocolate in our communities with the cacao. And we've got a brand which we hope will be recognized nationally, internationally. So we're in a learning curve on this. And this year we're going to be in a national competition, and we're amongst the 5 best examples of chocolate in our country. And we're in a international fair in Paris on chocolate. So we've now achieved getting us into the chocolate salon in the world. So having been recognized as a group of women who are creating this, so this is a new wind in our sails. With so many challenges that we face in these years, with hurricanes and droughts and so on, with low international coffee prices. So this was like a vaccination, an injection of with honey. We're also in a struggle to learn how to grow with small projects such as those that Erika has taken part in the small little parcels of land for women. So we're planting onions and peppers, and this, along with the traditional products of the farms, has created a small vegetable market. And the women who produce this come to this market to sell their products, and therefore creates family income. And all of this production is also done organically as well. So therefore we are betting on products that are ecologically sustainable. So we're trying to create an environment that is healthy for our communities, and we're working through the challenges of climate change.
Gracias. Oh, sí.
SOPPECCCA también eso ha venido haciendo campañas con el medio ambiente, y todo eso nosotros lo hemos practicado también con las escuelas, con nuestros niños también, en las casas. Todo eso hemos nosotros aprendido a vivir un ambiente sano también, como decía ella. Todo esto porque nos han venido capacitando también.
Gracias. I have a question here from somebody less to do with agriculture and more to do with questions of gender and gender equality. And the question is, have you seen a shift when you look at young children, boys and girls now? Have you seen a shift in how they view each other in terms of equality to when you were young girls? Has there been a change do you think, from when you were growing up to now, how young boys and girls see themselves in Nicaragua?
Ahora los niños todo es igual, ¿verdad? Y la participación es...
Children tend to see things more similarly, and there seems to be less of an understanding of difference between them. They're talking a lot more about equality.
No hay diferencia.
There's not really a difference.
Igual nosotros en las cooperativas tenemos voz y voto también en las...
Also, within the cooperatives and the assemblies, we have a vote each, and men and women all take part, and we all take part in making decisions.
Gracias. I have a big question, which is, we've been talking a little bit about the big climate change UN conference, COP26, which is happening this year in my country, in the UK. If you were going to be speaking to people there, to those politicians, to those leaders, what would the message from your cooperative from Nicaragua be to some of those people who have some power to make some change? What would be your message to them?
Bueno, COVID-26 para nosotros representó también un desafío, muchas angustias, tener que aprender a cómo manejar la pandemia, sensibilizar a nuestras comunidades, empezar a cambiar nuestro hábito. Los nicas somos muy dados al abrazo, al grupo. Y efectivamente, pues, hemos logrado a nivel de la organización mantener unos niveles de contagio bastante bajos.
So COVID has given us lots of challenges for the Nicaraguan people. We've a country that loves to hug each other, and we've had to learn about how to do that, and we've had to adapt ourselves to this. So the message we would give to the politicians, the message that we would give to the politicians is don't withdraw the and don't stop giving resources to communities that need them. So we need to close the chain of infection in our communities, and the countries that have greatest economic resources and that are more prepared, and that we need policies that prevent the spread of epidemics and pandemics. And we would hope that the countries that have got greatest resources would have solidarity with ourselves, and that sadly the percentages of infection and the number of people who've died and the pain that this has causes, this don't have the money to pay, and this has a huge impact on the lives of ourselves. And the lesson is that we need to be better human beings. So this has been a sad experience for all of us. So COVID has affected all of us, and this pandemic that has helped us to see, given a crisis like this, that we all live in the same world against a challenge like this. And it doesn't matter how much money you've created and how much money you've saved, you could still be infected by this. But we, in solidarity with all those who've been affected by this, because we're human beings, as much in a community in rural Nicaragua, and we were all living through this. So instead of spending money on arms and invading other countries and war, and creating bloodshed in Palestine, in any given moment in a pandemic such as this, in a given moment, we may all be equal in this. And therefore we need to respect that.
Gracias. So this question comes from one of the participants, so somebody watching us this evening, and they've asked how important or how large a part of the social economy for Nicaragua do you think fair trade cooperatives such as yourselves are? Do they make up a small part of it, or do they make quite a significant contribution to Nicaragua's both monetary economy, but also the social economy, so the sort of social fabric of the country?
Sí, en Nicaragua tenemos 38 organizaciones cooperativas.
In Nicaragua, there are 38 organizations that are developing free trade. A few years ago, there were only a few cooperatives that were doing this. And on the basis of that experience, we have developing more cooperatives in the countryside. So we have to develop a strategy that the monopoly of cooperatives isn't necessarily the way forward. So we have to develop more cooperatives and develop more free trade, fair trade. So therefore, a large proportion of the coffee that we develop and sell is through fair trade. So it's a percentage that is really important. And developing programs around the environment and around gender, this is really important. And the cooperatives are able to develop these interchanges, and these alliances help us to support this through free trade, fair trade. And this helps us with resources and ways of working. And if an organization has a problem, we're able to support it and help it. So if SOPPECCCA needs some sort of help and some consultancy or some help and support, we're able to get that. So producers have gone from one part of the country to another, for instance, to Miraflor. So that creates a whole interconnected life of cooperatives across the country. This is a fundamental pillar in supporting us in terms of how we position ourselves in the market and the exportation of our coffee helps to support our social programs. The additional fair trade payment is destined to supporting the environmental programs and the social programs.
Thank you. And I think this next question, or it's two questions for Erika, which are, one is, do your children or children in the community help to grow coffee or other crops? Do they help out? And the other one is really specifically, and I think you said you had 3 hectares. I think that's right. How many trees can you actually grow on 3 hectares? How many can you fit on there?
Los niños, hijos de socio, ellos estudian.
The children, actually more than anything, spend their time studying.
Colaboran,
They collaborate in a few things around the house, but realistically, in terms of the coffee, they're not included because we want them to spend as much of their time as possible studying. And also, we want to give them that opportunity to study, to play, to grow as children in a healthy atmosphere. As a cooperative, we have the idea of gender around politics and trying to make it equal. And we want to support them so that they all get to study, both men and women, both children, male and female, and therefore not involve them too much in coffee production from an early age. So politics, the protection and inclusion of children is the leaflet. Children, politics of gender, and of inclusion and protection.
Perfect. I like that you had resources ready to go. Brilliant.
Apologies. So Erika has a quarter of an acre. No, that's an apple. So that translates to ×3, just over an acre.
Got it. And how much can you grow in that space that you have?
Tres manzanas sería 10.500 plantas de café.
That would be about 10,500 coffee plants. Of course, not all of that is currently productive at one given time, as some get worse over time, and therefore you are constantly one is constantly having to regenerate and take old plants out and put new plants in and develop the plants over time. So they're not always productive plants, but that's 10,500 plants.
Fantastic. Thank you. We had a question about whether renewable energy, and it doesn't say what kind of renewable energy in the question, so it could be solar, wind, other biomass. Is renewable energy production, is that something that you've managed to incorporate in any of your work? Is it something you would like to have? Is it a possibility for the cooperative to have forms of renewable energy?
Sí, a nivel de la cooperativa, a nivel de producción.
The level of our production, there is no renewable energy. The bottleneck in the production of this is transport. So it's the bringing and of the things that we have to bring in to make the coffee. But we've talked about a solar dryer in each farm. So this helps the coffee to reduce its humidity. And so with reduced humidity, the coffee is less heavy and therefore it needs less transport. So its weight is less. So this is a strategy of quality as well as reducing the amount of energy that we need. But the dry beneficials that we have where we dry the coffee, and that's all done in the sun. And so there's no energy used in that. It's all dried in the sun. So that gives us a control point. But we use the machines that help. That we have a big challenge in this. But it needs a viability study about how to use solar power and hydraulic power, and how we can adapt the machinery to that. But we don't. But we need to do that, and we need to do these studies in order to implement this. And we have engineers in the country from our movement who support this challenge to reduce the amount of energy that we consume. But at the level of little farms, all of our production is underneath the sun, of course, with forestry trees. So these are fruit trees and trees that can be used for timber. So this helps with the diversity. And it also gives protection to the fauna. In this regard, in the next few years, we can invest to achieve the critical points that we've got in terms of this chain of production. But in terms of the small farms, we're taking many actions in order to reduce the use of energy. Yeah. So if I haven't fully answered the question, you can repeat it.
No, perfecto. Nada más. Gracias. And in fact, there's a bit of a conversation happening in the chat box for this. And Alex has said that Nicaragua is aiming for 90% of its energy needs from renewables. It is already at about 70%, which is geothermal plus huge wind farms, which is, 70% already, and getting to 90% puts most of Europe to shame. So that is amazing work. We're going to do one more question, and then we're going to be out of time. And just a final question.
Sí, quizás un comentario de la misma pregunta.
Sí.
I wanted to continue my commentary against that last question, actually. We've been implementing a lot of actions to create an electricity network and to bring drinking water to our communities. using alternative models of technology, and we've created government programs to support this. So there are a few critical points that we wanted to explain.
Great, thank you. We are just about out of time, and I do not want to leave this without being able to say a proper thank you to everybody. So a huge thank you to our two speakers, Fatima and Erika. Gracias. Muchas gracias. It has been fantastic to talk with you through the power of technology. I'd also like to thank our amazing translators, because that seems like one of the hardest jobs in the world. Thank you for the invitation to host this evening. Before I go, I just wanted to point you towards some things which have already been put in the chat box, but about choosing fair trade, about signing the Climate Coalition Declaration, with trying to put some pressure on the UK government leading up to COP26. Looking out for other local actions and national events leading up to the G7 conference, which is happening in Cornwall in June, and the wider UK-wide climate festival happening in September, which is being coordinated by the Climate Coalition. And then also the NSC's campaign for social, economic and environmental justice in Nicaragua, supporting small-scale farmers, and all those links will be in the chat box as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining this evening. Yeah, again, so much love and support to our amazing speakers, Fatima and Erika. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you, everyone, for attending this evening. And I hope we get to connect, speak, and yeah, actually be with each other at some point in the near future. Everyone, stay happy, stay healthy, and thank you for joining this evening. And with that, I will sign off.
Gracias a todos ustedes. Me encontré todos mis amigos viejos, la niña de mis ojos, Tamara. Un abrazo, Tamara.
Gracias, Fatima.
Thank you to all of you, and it's been great to catch up with old friends, and lovely to see you again tomorrow.